So here he is, let's get into him. Yeah, they always do some nice work on the artwork. I used to always go into a lot of detail when I did these unboxing videos and talk about, ooh, isn't the artwork nice and what have you, but I've kind of got past that, I suppose, and it's not really what we're here to see, is it? We want to see what the model looks like, we want to see how you can construct them, and we want to maybe talk about what it will look like on the battlefield. So you've got your now familiar instructions. We've got a couple of options in terms of the way we put them together. We've got a, I guess, defensive and offensive stance, very much like what you get in the cards, and we'll read through that. List of components, blah, 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 and then your credits. Let's have a quick look on the other side. Ah, good. We'll need these because we've got the list of the rules that come with it, because there's a couple of things which are going to change the game up from the Republic's point of view. So you get our standard cardboard. Nothing particularly fancy there, nothing that gives us any kind of hints or clues about what's in here. A lot of Surge tokens, but the Separatists and the Republic kind of tend to live and die by their Surge tokens. So nothing terribly surprising there. We have our unit card, we have our boatload of upgrade cards, and we have 3 order cards and the new trait card, which is essentially the floor card that we'll discuss in a little while. So this is our sprue. You've got the 2 options for the torso. We've got 2 heads as well and 2 sets of arms, but only 1 set of legs. Too bad, you very nearly got the ability to make 2 Anakins out of the one model here. But let's have a quick closer look at the model. Yeah, you can see the real kind of detail. The light's catching it really clearly. I'm looking at the cloak, or whatever you want to call it, but essentially the detail's very, very good. The shoes, the feet have got a lot of detail built into them. Okay, there's nothing really to say about arms and lightsabers, but they are nice and detailed. But one thing I want to draw your attention to, because I didn't actually realise this was a thing, we've got 2 heads here. Now, they look very, very similar, but let me try to get this right close to the camera. We've got Snarling Anakin, and we've got Sneering Smokeface Anakin. Now, that is such a subtle difference, and it really speaks volumes to the quality of their sculpting ability. We would have never seen that in the past. And the only thing that comes in the box that we haven't mentioned is your stand, but who cares? And now Darth Maul. Let's check this guy out. Really been looking forward to this guy. Not only do we get Maul, we get several pose options, and we get these droids. Let's find out what this guy does. So let's get into the box nice and quick. Instructions, flight stance, sprue for, I presume, the droids, Maul himself, and let's have a quick look at this. So we've got his cardboard. Unlike the Anakin model that we've recently unboxed, this one has an absolute load of new things on it. So there's going to be a lot of rules for us to unpack and to work out how these impact the game. We have our unit cards for Maul, for his droids, and they are 1, 2, and 3 command cards. Noticing straight away we've got 2 1-pips. And we have an array of command cards, some of which are new ones that we've only seen in this one and Anakin. The flight stands aren't any different to what we've been seeing with all our now flying units. 4 bases. some pretty reasonably solid instructions. So I'm getting a weird shadow there. I think I'm too close to my light. And it seems the droids are all the same. And you'll be glad to know a rules reference showing you all the different things that are in here that we might not have seen before, might not be aware of. So this is the sprue for the droids. It's really hard to get a feel for what they're going to look like when they're assembled. I know we've seen a picture, but given that they're in so many small parts, it's going to be hard to call it out. So I think we'll just need to come back and take a close look when this has been assembled. The Maul model looks great. When we look at his tunic or whatever, really kind of flowing, looks like it's moving a lot, and as I move it through the light you can see the highlights being caught out, which is really nice. I'm looking forward to that. So many options with his arms, I'm not even sure where to begin. But with his face, now again, I didn't realise we were going to get two options here, but we've got a kind of quite a passive looking Maul there, where you're just looking dead ahead, and then you've got this grimacing, you know, the in combat Maul, which I've got to be honest with you, off the bat, I will be going for that one. But it's really nice. And let me try to get this right into the camera. You might be able to see it, you might not. But can you see how there's ridges all over his face? So I know I've got the horns and the eyes and what have you. But what I mean is the kind of colourful red and black that you get on Maul's face. This isn't something you're going to have to paint on by hand. Well, of course you are, but you don't have to just freehand it. They've put in raised sections. So let me get right up close. There we go. So that's going to make painting his face for people like me who are not great painters that much easier. Really impressive stuff. That's so good. So here he is. This is Anakin fully assembled. I've gone for the grin, the grimace, the snarl of laughter, whatever you want to call it, face, with his hand up and saber backwards. I think this is a really nice model. I know there was a lot of discussion about how he should have been dressed versus like the Clone Wars or the Revenge of the Sith, especially in comparison to Obi-Wan, but I think this looks like a really well put together, well designed miniature, and I'm looking forward to painting him. Lots of detail to put on the face, so that will be a test for me, because doing faces is where I'm particularly weak, but a lot of it looks like there's going to be a really simple opportunity, well, nice opportunity rather, to pick out some simple colours and to be able to highlight to make him look like he's really kind of moving at speed or really in the middle of combat. So they've done a nice job with that. Well done, FFG. I'm really impressed with this one. So here is the unit card for Anakin Skywalker, and it is packed full of keywords and various options for him. So what we'll do is we'll just start top right. He's your commander, obviously 1 mini, we can know this stuff by now. He's a trooper still, 6 health, 3 courage, resilience value, whatever you want to call it, and he defends with red dice. And not terribly unusually at this point for anyone in the Republic Army, he doesn't surge either way. However, we will discover how he earns those as we go along. He has a movement speed of 2, he has impact 3, pierce 3, and he swings 5 red attack dice. So that is that the best attack dice in the game? That certainly seems like it could be. Certainly seems like one of the best pools I've ever seen. So I'll call it, yes, probably the best attack dice in the pool. Interesting though, it's Anakin's lightsaber, as you'd expect, but somehow he is that much better with his lightsaber. Luke Skywalker, commander, who is also using Anakin's lightsaber, uses black dice. So he's just that much better with his lightsaber. Anyway, looking at the upgrades on the left, we've got 2 training upgrades and 2 force slots, and he is a grand total of 160 points, so seems pretty expensive, but what I understand from the developers is he starts off overcosted, but as the game goes on he becomes much more effective and much better value for points. So you want to get him into the later games, and I think you're going to want to play his command cards, but we'll discover that and discuss that shortly. Now we'll look at the keywords. We've got the Jedi standard jump 1, so we all know what that means. When he does a standard movement, he can essentially do a jump of height 1. So essentially he can move over things quite easily, which is good for someone who is a melee unit. He's got the Gemso Mastery, which this is like what you get with a lot of the Jedi, in terms of you are able to spend a surge into a block if you spend a dodge token. The difference is here, if he spends a dodge token, he gets the ability to surge to defend. But if you cancel at least one hit or at least one crit, then that will put a wound on the attacker. So it's just a little bit different in the wording. Interesting though about this one, this is for ranged and melee. So really, really good. And also something to note from the RRG, if you spend a dodge token, obviously you can spend it, but if it was just crits you were defending against, you can't cancel them unless you have outmaneuver. So I'll come on to that shortly, but essentially let's just ignore outmaneuver for the time being. But if you can't spend any dodges to cancel, then you can't you can still gain surge to defend, but you can't cause the defender to take any damage because you haven't cancelled with the dodge token a crit. It's well worth reading essentially in the RRG because it does clarify it. Next up we've got Flawed, which is you add a floor card to your opponent's hand. So this is very much like a command card, but it's one your opponent has to play against you, and they can play it whenever they want to, and it's going to have an impact on him. He's got another Jedi standard, Immune Pierce, so Pierce can't be used against him, of course, and he's got Tempted. Now this is the most exciting one, I think. This enables him to equip dark side upgrades. So he's not just light side only, like all the others are, except for obviously the Empire. He can essentially take the dark side of the Force upgrades, so he will have access to cards in a combination we have not seen before. Okay guys, I'm just jumping in, interrupting this video just to remind you that I do have competition to win yourself one of the limited edition Luke Skywalkers. So please check out the video where I unbox this model and I talk about how you can win it. And it's a relatively simple process, though it's really targeted at people who play Legion. That's why I'm asking a bit more of the people who are trying to enter, because frankly I want a fan to win this, not just someone who wants to, you know, get a model because it looks good. I want a Legion player, someone who knows what they're doing to win it. So go and check that video out if I can speak today. I'm going to end it at the end of December, so we have got a month to do this. And hopefully you'll start the new year with a nice shiny Luke Skywalker Commander limited edition. So these are your upgrade cards that you get with Anakin. Now we're just focusing right now on the training upgrades. So the first one on the left, we've got Seize the Initiative. This is a brand new one for these expansions. This can only be issued to commanders or operatives. Fine, so of course Anakin can take it. Just note the cross, that means it's exhaustible. So essentially you don't get to use it once you've spent it. And during the issue order step of the command phase, issue an order to yourself. So think of it as a 5 points HQ uplink. So essentially you don't have an order going on Anakin. This way you can give him one, which can be great for a unit that does tend to want to go first, looking at his stats. And on the right we've got a double-sided card. This is Offensive Stance on the side we're showing here. At the start of your activation, you may flip this, so you can put it on either side, and when you perform an aim action, you gain 2 aims instead of 1, but you cannot spend dodge tokens. So essentially, this just buffs your ability to be more offensive, as the name suggests. So you get 2 aims for your money and can't spend any dodge tokens, and the converse is Defensive Stance. And at the start of your activation, you may flip this card. When you perform a dodge action, gain 2 dodge tokens instead of 1, and this time you can't spend aim tokens. So essentially they're the parallel of each other. I think Anakin is going to want to have Defensive Stance, which seems a little bit odd given he is quite an aggressive character, but the Gemso Mastery is going to really encourage him to want to have the ability to have dodge tokens, and this is going to be quite useful for him, essentially to be getting the extras because he's going to be attacked a lot. And let's be honest, he's not going to necessarily need an aim token because he's rolling red dice with Impact 3, PS3. So it's likely he's going to be killing minimum 3 things anyway, and possibly up to 5. So we'll just have to see. So here we have a whole host of Force cards that Anakin comes with, some of which are brand new ones, which is fantastic. And all but one of these are dark side only. So your Luke Skywalker's, your only one Kenobi's, they aren't looking at these. These are ones which would have just been Vader and Palpatine up until now. So, like I said, going to mean for some exciting combinations. We'll just go through them real quick, starting on the left. So anger, after you suffer one or more wound, gain an aim token. Given the fact that Anakin might be taking dodge tokens primarily, this could be quite good for him. But realistically, let's just bear in mind with offensive stance, if you are taking that, you are prevented from spending aim tokens. So whether or not you're going to use that one is anyone's guess. Fear, on the other hand, you gain Demoralize 1. So this is like the opposite of Inspire. So after you rally, an enemy unit at range 1 to 2 gains up to 1 suppression token. So it's only one enemy unit, but still, that's not a bad way to limit the action efficiency of an enemy for almost nothing. And for 3 points, it really is almost nothing. Next up is a brand new one, and this is something that you will have to kind of recover because it is a one-time use only, but this is Force Barrier. So when another friendly trooper at range 1 is defending against a ranged attack, during the modified attack dice steps, either cancel 1 crit or 2 hits. So essentially, you get to, during their defense, decide you're going to spend this card to enable you to cancel a crit or 2 hits. That is brilliant. Now, it is 10 points, so it isn't cheap, but I love that, and I think depending on the kind of way you play a game, a Force user is going to absolutely love that. Particularly your Kenobi. Anakin, I'm not so sure about, but it's still a great card to have. And lastly, another one that has to be spent and then recovered. But as a free action, you can choose another unit, a non-commander, a non-operative unit that is, and you may cause it to suffer a wound. The nice thing is you can choose what unit that's going to be. So if you are, easy example, against some rebels and they've got a Z6, where you get to snuff out the Z6 instead of having to wait till it's nearly the last man gone. So that's a nice way of doing it. So this is our flawed card. So just to remind you, at the start of the game, you will pass this card over to your opponent and they will put that in their command card. And now you've got to think about this text as you're reading it as the opponent to Anakin. You may play this card at the start of the command phase. If there is an enemy Anakin Skywalker with at least 1 suppression token, that Anakin Skywalker cannot be issued orders. So essentially, you are rendering that Anakin incapable of getting any orders from his command cards, all of which we will see give him orders as you'd expect, and meaning that he can only be pulled from the bag. So depending on the situation in the game, that might have some utility, it might not, but I think given Anakin's going to want to control the battlefield, that is going to be a massive burden and is going to really kind of make Anakin players have to hold off or engage super quick and essentially get him to do what he needs to do before this is issued. And something else about it I wanted to point out, just the back of the card, just some nice artwork, I like it. So we'll take a look now at his command cards. So one of the things you want to bear in mind, all of Anakin's cards have permanent, and this is what we talked about before with him starting overcosted, but then getting actually undercosted, because all of the keywords he gets here will be permanent, so they will stay. So let's start with his 3-pip. This is an order for Anakin Skywalker and 2 additional units. This is permanent. Anakin Skywalker gains Exemplar and Reliable 2. And at the end of his activation, if he is not in range 1 to 2 of a friendly unit, he gains 1 suppression. So he giveth and he taketh away, because bear in mind, at the end of his activation, he needs to avoid that suppression in case your opponent is going to play the not a story a Jedi would tell floor card. But otherwise, you're going to gain Exemplar and Reliable 2. So let's just remind ourselves what that means. So Exemplar is friendly units at range 1 to 2 and in line of sight can spend your dodge tokens. A bit of a party piece of the Republic, we all know that, but the fact that Anakin can get that could be quite useful given the fact that depending on how you build him, whether or not he's got anger and he's going to be getting aim tokens for free essentially, or whether or not you're going to be taking offensive stance and he's going to be having more dodge tokens, it's pretty good that if he isn't the object of attack, that he can help share that around with his friendly units, not just clones, friendly units at range 1 to 2. And Reliable 2, again, this is a generator of green tokens. So at the start of that turn, he will get 2 surge tokens because of reliable 2. And this is something that's going to happen for every turn. From now on, he'll get 2 surge tokens at the start of his turn. So essentially, he's now got his defensive surge anyway, and he's got exemplar, so if he's not using them, he can share them out. So his 2-pip, You Underestimate My Power. This is just for Anakin Skywalker. Again, it's another permanent one. So here we go. Anakin Skywalker gains surge to crit. So here's his other opportunity to gain surges in the other direction, essentially. And he gains Master of the Force 1. At the end of his activation, if he does not perform an attack, he gains 1 suppression. So another time that you're incentivized to get him right up close and into the thick of things, because if you don't, you get a suppression. And again, not the story the Jedi would tell can come into play. It's permanent as well. Master of the Force 1 is great because if you are using some of your Jedi powers, and we'll discuss that more in a second, but some of them you're going to need them to refresh automatically, such as your kind of force reflexes. You're going to want that to keep them coming back. So Master of the Force 1 is pretty good. And the same for your Force Barrier. That's something else that coming back for free is going to be really useful as well. And let's be honest, Surge to Crit is fantastic whenever that is on the card. And finally, we come to his 1-pip. This is where the fun begins. And again, just for Anakin Skywalker, and again, it's permanent. So once played, he will get to keep this. So Anakin Skywalker gains Outmaneuver and Relentless. At the end of his activation, if he was not the first friendly unit to activate during his current round, he gains 1 suppression. So again, suppression is the stick that Anakin's been beaten with, but he does have permanent keywords. Outmaneuver, just as a reminder, is where you are able to spend your dodge tokens to cancel crits. So when we talked about Gem's Soul Mastery earlier on, this gives him that ability to spend dodge tokens to cancel crits directly, which is good. And Relentless, this enables him to perform a free attack action after he moves. So that's great because this one really requires him to be in combat. So the fact that he can move, and get that free attack is fantastic. So just out the box, there are so many options you can do with Anakin. And below what I've got is a really simple example of one of the builds you could put with him. So this is just 1 Force upgrade and 1 training slot. And I've just gone with Force Barrier and Offensive Stance. I think these seem like some really, really good ones. I'm a big fan of Force Barrier because it seems like it's unlikely he'll be out on his own. He's going to have people at the kind of range to enable you to kind of shield them, or where you can put yourself in a position to really kind of maximise his attacking whilst keeping an eye out for some of your subordinate units, if you want to call them that way. An offensive stance gives you that ability to make sure he is staying on the battlefield for as long as possible. Now, in terms of how I would be building this, in addition to what you get in the box, I think Endurance, this is the one which means at the end of your activation you remove the suppression token. Given the impact of not the story the Jedi would tell, it preventing you from receiving orders, I think I will virtually be stapling that to his card. I think that's something that's really, really important for him. I think also I'm going to want to put Force Reflexes on him. So essentially this gives you the free dodge token. Now, obviously you've now got 2 Force upgrades, which means that you are going to spend them essentially when and they'll need to be refreshed, and you'll only ever get Master of the Force 1, so you'll have to choose. However, I think Force Barrier is the kind of thing that you can decide to use during the enemy attacking the friendly trooper, so that might be worth having that to be spent, and if you get to recover it, brilliant. But in terms of Force Reflexes, you gain a dodge token without having to dodge, so whilst you'll only get the 1 dodge token, even with defensive stance, because you're gaining a dodge token, not performing a dodge action, it is a great way to keep him charged up defensive and to be really, really kind of impactful. So this is the kind of build I'm looking at. So I've been on Discord and looked at what some people have suggested building. Some have suggested putting situational awareness on him so you can gain outmaneuver, so you can always be dodging the crits and cancelling them, so that works to your advantage. Others have suggested putting anger on because of the fact he is going to be targeted, and it gives you that aim generation, which is great if you're going in to cause maximum damage. Others talking about force push, lots of people talking about endurance, just like I've said, and tenacity is another one. Tenacity, of course, gives you, when you're wounded, so when you're in melee combat, you get the additional attack dice, which is pretty good. Interestingly, not many people saying saber throw, which when you divide the dice by half and you've got 5, so that's going to be 3 dice from the way it works. He could do a range 2, 3 red dice attack with impact 3, pierce 3. Pretty solid. I'm not going to go with that, but it's another option if that's how you like things. Anyway, that's going to wrap up Anakin there. So I think he's going to make for an excellent mini on the tabletop. He's going to be an excellent hobbyist thing to paint. And I can't wait to play him and to get some games against him. Right, thank you very much for watching, guys. See you around.